Hello, welcome back. Today we're going to be painting a flower and it's going to be viewer's choice. So I'm going to give a few moments for people to pop in the stream. I've already had one vote for the tulip. Let me just show you the options here. We have the, thanks Tara, the cone flower, or we have the tulip. So both are going to be started in watercolor. And I think once again we have, oh, I'm clicking wrong buttons. The coneflower or the tulip. So we have one of those two is what we're going to be doing today. Let me just pop those back off. No, and I popped that back on. There we go. There we go. Of course, you can download both of these references for free. These are both photos that I took of flowers that were here at the house. And I popped them in Canva, changed up the backgrounds, and yeah, they're the reference photos. But you can get them over on link right here at Patreon. And those are free. You don't have to be a patron to download those. You can go right over to Patreon and that will be a public post and they should be available for you to download right there. If anybody's having any issue with that, you'd have to let me know, because I'm just thinking I didn't put them as attached files. So let me know if you can't grab them from there, because I can attach them as files really quick and then they would be able to be downloaded very easily. I think I just have to, one second. And give me one more moment. I'm making sure that they're there. I want to make sure that you guys can grab those if you want them. Okay, so that post has been updated. You should be able to just go on over there and download those, whichever one. So drop me a comment if you're here. Which one are you hoping? Like I said, I have a vote for tulip already. So what are you wanting to see us do today? I think what I'll probably do is whatever one I don't do today, I'll do in a separate video, because I really kind of wanted to do both, but I'm not going to do both in one stream. So I figured I'll leave it open and let you guys decide. And I'm looking to see. Oh. There we go. So there's a tulip. There's the, it's a purple cone flower. And they say purple cone flower, but they really look kind of pink. And we have another tulip. So right now, so far, it looks like we're doing the tulip. So while I am waiting for others to pop in and join us, another tulip. So tulip, okay, tulip's looking, it's looking like we might do a tulip. But don't worry, Teresa, I really want to do the cone flower as well. So that's probably going to be a video of its own, which probably give me more time to work on that. I have some really fun ideas for the top, the cone that's on there. Yeah. And if you do decide to paint along today or grab the reference photo and paint this, I hope that you will give credit for the reference and share it on social media, and you can join. I've got the art groups up right there. You can join one of our art groups. or post it on social media and tag me. And you can find me right there. So, yeah. I think we're going to end up doing a tulip. All right. So one of the things I need to do, while I'm waiting, just to give a few more moments for people to pop in. Right now it looks like we're doing a tulip, but I got some viewer mail recently. Of course, that one. Those of you who are patrons of Joseph, who is one of our moderators, that was postcard I just got in the mail from Joseph. And I got this card right here from Cat's Art Picks. I haven't seen her pop in yet today, but that is from her. And thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay. So, next thing we need to do is pop. Oh, you're welcome. Okay, so let's just take it down to the desk. There we go. And you see, I had both prepared, but we are going to set the coneflower aside, echinacea, if you would. And we're going to put tape off the tulip. And today, my supplies, I have my Daniel Smith watercolors, of course, because I just keep grabbing those. They are my favorite at the moment. So I have my Paint Puck Waterwell. I will be using my Silver White brushes again by Silver Brush. And this is the number 10 round and number 4 round. I don't think I'll need any more than that today. Then we have, I just got in some of this, and I was going to share this with you because this is the artist tape that I get. It is linked in the description below, and I'm going to just get a little crinkly stuff going on here. But you see, it says artist tape. It is listed as an artist or drafter's tape. It is acid-free. It does say that it's acid-free on there. And mine was just about gone. I was telling you guys before, like, that's all I had left. I buy them 4 rolls at a time, this thickness. And the reason that I like these is because when I go to tape a project down, I can kind of see through this tape, so I know just how much of my paper I'm taping off, and I can stay pretty consistent with that. I don't particularly care for the black tape. I have it as I would use it with acrylic work sometimes. So I have it. However, you see, when I go to put that down, I gotta kind of guess. I can't just see through. So I prefer, for watercolor stuff, some of this. And actually, and I've shared this before, my absolute favorite tape, which is not linked in the description below, it's in my go bag, is the Holbein soft tape. It is more expensive, but it is definitely worth it. If you have problems with paint seeping under your tape, the Holbein soft tape generally does not seep. And it releases very nicely. That's probably my favorite tape. If I'm working on a project that, is for someone, or I know I am probably going to want to sell that, then the Holbein soft tape is the one I choose. And that tape is done. There we go. The tack isn't too strong on this one. But again, you see how easy, and I can see that my border is pretty much the same width all the way around because I can see through it. So definitely my preference is the lighter tape for watercolor, or for taping off paper for that matter. Okay, so that's there. Now I do find sometimes that when this gets heated with, like if I used my heat tool to dry my project or part of my project, like this will come up off my little boards. And I'm just using my little cutting mats that I get from the Dollar Tree. That's what I got this tape down. And my paper today is the B watercolor paper. Now, in the description below, I have the B inspired paper, which I used last week. And that is the B inspired paper is that's the one that is like a cellulose. It's available. Walmart, I know, carries it. Last week's live, I think it's actually linked in the description below as well. The B inspired paper. You can get that through Walmart. It is an affiliate link. The paper that I'm using today, though, is the 9x6 100% cotton B paper. That I get from Amazon. It is also linked in the description below. And it comes in 2 weights. So it has the 90-pound 6x9, which is what this is today. I'm using the 90-pound paper. I'm not going to be doing too many really heavy washes with this, so I wasn't worried about that. They also do make 140-pound. You just want to pay attention to what it says when you select which one you're going to get, but that is linked in the description below. Now I was thinking about taking this because it has a backer board here, and this Lou made me a press, and I'm really considering taking this so I don't have to tape it down if I don't want to, and turning it into a block. And if that is something that you guys would be interested in seeing how I do that, drop me a comment if you're watching after the replay and that's something you might be interested in, how to make your own watercolor blocks or blocks of like watercolor paper. Drop me a comment, and when I make it, I will record it, share it with you. Okay. Tara said, I wonder if those small mats are on the band things that you're not allowed. I don't know. I'll have to send you one. I'll have to drop one in a care package. one or two. Excuse me. I find them very handy. I mean, they're flexible, but they're very handy. And if I want to, like, this was actually, well, it started like this. It was a corner, and it's really, really hard, but it came in a package to protect the corners of a package that was shipped to me. I actually have like a big, long piece of this stuff too. And so obviously there were 4 corners. Well, I saved a couple of them. This one I just cut in half. And so if I want to just gently elevate what I'm working on for watercolor so that, you know, gravity can take effect and pull down, I can just pop that underneath what I'm working on. So see that sitting on my desk? That's what that is. All right, I have an old rag and of course paper towel for managing my water, and then I have a ceramic plate just so I can have some extra mixing space. There are my colors. Now once I'm done with the watercolor portion, I may grab some of my Stabilo Carbothello pastel pencils just to do some finishing touches on this. Those are also linked below. This is the 60 this is the 60 tin when I purchased it. The tin has changed, so I will note that the tin has changed now. So not trying to trigger anybody's want monsters, but if you did go looking for those, I just want you to realize that the tin has changed. So if you see something, then you won't think it's not the same. It looks slightly different now. All right. I think that was all the things, and we are ready to get to painting. Let's go full screen on the desk again. so you can see better. All right, so in my reference photo, and I don't think I have my reference photo on here. I don't have it on this screen. But like I said, you can grab that over on Patreon. You do not have to be a patron to get the reference photo of the tulip or the purple coneflower. There's like, the background is kind of like there's blue like around the top and the bottom, and it's brighter in the center. And let me just pop mine so I can see my reference photo. There we go. Oh, I was just sitting here for like an hour just waiting for this time for the stream to start, and then of course 15 minutes before I had to run and grab something. So now I'm coughing again. Rob says no one wants to hear, I already have them. Let me just share one thing real quick. Rob just made me think of it. We were talking last night in Lisa of Lockery Fine Art. We were chatting in her chat during her stream, and it came up about Daniel Smith watercolors. I had sent her some, and she hasn't had a chance to test those out yet. She was using Schminke in last night's stream, but a few of us in the chat were talking about Daniel Smith and how we like Daniel Smith, and I mentioned the sticks, and these are what the sticks look like. Now you can get these little cases that store them if you order them like from Blick. It is linked below. You can order these. You don't need to. This is how they're going to come to you from Blick. You're going to get a box just like this, and they're going to be in these little foam divided boxes. They're going to be well protected. So are these necessary? No, not really, but it depends if you want a bunch of boxes stacked up that you can't see through, or do you want to put them in something like this that you can. You can separate these, but once you separate them, there's no putting them back together. So they come in a section of 5. I like to keep them that way. But these sticks, this is one I haven't cut yet. So this is what they look like. And this is lamp black. And, the paper has all of its information on here. This is PB06. And, right, does that say 06? Wow. I know these. It's been so long since I've talked about actual pigments or pigment numbers. PBK6, yes. So that's PBK6. And I'm just putting my glasses away, sorry. But I was telling people how this is your best value. If you look up, and I have a link in the description below, go to Blick and check the prices on Daniel Smith paint. And if you look at the 5 ml tubes and the 15 ml tubes, you're going to get probably about as many half pans out of a 15 ml tube as you're going to out of one stick. But the sticks are like plus or minus right at $10. I have a half pan of, it's got stuff in it, but just so that you can see, I was telling them last night, I'm like, you can get a good 2, 3, 4, you can get 4 to 5 half pans out of a stick. And when you cut this stick and put that piece in a half pan, pretty well fills that half pan. So, and they cut very easily. I mean, I just took, I would use like a utility knife and just cut it. And you can see in my palette, like there's one right there. That is the rich green gold. I have a few. That's one too that I had used. That is my lunar black. And that's the way I've gotten them, because now anytime I have to get a replacement of a Daniel Smith color, if it is available in the stick, I just buy it in the stick. According to Daniel Smith, the paint that you get in the stick, in the tube, or on the pre-poured half pans, it's all the same paint. It is the same exact paint, whether they put it in a tube and it stays wet, or they pour it into a half pan and dry it, or they turn it into sticks. It's all the same paint. And Daniel Smith does on their Facebook. Yeah, if you follow them on Facebook, John, who's the owner, they do live in fact, they go live right after my stream every Thursday at 5 at Eastern time. And I think they go live on Fridays too, but Thursdays is usually when they're talking products. And that's where I used to attend those lives all the time. And that's where I got the information from. So, I forgot to put that back. Okay. We've waffled on long enough. I think we can get painting. But I just wanted to touch on that because we were talking about it last night. So I thought, well, if any of those people that were interested in that information happen to be watching today or watching on the replay, I just wanted to share that with you and show you what the sticks looked like. And yeah. Okay. So to start with on my tulip, I'm going to just kind of wet, and I think I'm going to grab, this is my 1/2 inch stroke. Just going to use that to wet this paper some. I'm going to wet beyond where I want to go. I'm going around the edges of my tulip that I've sketched on my paper. If I don't happen to get one spot perfectly wet, it doesn't matter. Right, we're just going to wet that. And the reason that I'm going beyond where I'm going to want my water to be is because I'm going to want it to gradually blend into that area. So now I'm going to take some ultramarine blue. Right. Now ultramarine blue. I don't want this to be a really strong blue sky. I want it to be very subtle. So the way that I lighten this up is to just add more water. Okay, just add more water. And now when I come in here, I'm going to start at the top because of course I wouldn't mind it being darkest at the top. And I can put that blue in. Then I'm just going to take my brush, clean it off in my water. Okay, and come back and just bring that down. Let that travel. Okay, this is going to be like sky. So if I get some streaks or some areas that are a little darker than others, I don't mind. There we go. And I can even tip that so that some of that color can move, let gravity pull some of that down. Because I haven't painted into my tulip, it's not going to travel into my tulip. All right. And then I'm going to do the same at the bottom. I'm going to wet a little bit more than I wanted to be, higher up than I want the blue to go. And right in here. There we go. And you see when I say it's wet, like, let me see if I can pick that up. There, can you see the sheen? You see the glare? It's wet, but it's not pooling and puddling. I'm going to put my block under there for right now. Okay. I'm going to grab a little bit more of that ultramarine. I'm going to start for the corners. I'm just going to dab some of that in here. And you see I didn't go all the way to my tulip. It'll spread there on its own. And now that I'm almost out of paint on my brush, I'm just going to kind of tap a little bit right in here to that blue space we're seeing behind. We're seeing through the tulip right there, through the leaves. In my reference, it was a little bit darker. It was a little darker down here and a little darker up there. I'm not so worried about the top part if it's not quite as dark as reference. That was just a background that I grabbed from Canva. If you guys have not tried Canva or experienced Canva yet, I've made no secrets to the fact that I am not an Adobe fan. And Canva, anything I have to edit, I do it on Canva. I make my thumbnails on Canva. I edit my photos on Canva. I remove backgrounds from photos on Canva. I love it. Canva Pro is what I have. It's very affordable. And there is a link in the description below if it's something that you might want to check out. There we go. And I think that I'm just going to put a little bit more blue, bring the blue down a little bit on this side. Just want to make sure that I'm still wet. Not too much water up here. I don't want to push a bloom or push the color back. I'm going to start to the outside so that when I bring it and work in, right? See, it just softens that color right up. And soon you will be seeing, you'll be able to see this a lot more, or a lot better, as soon as I get a little more color in here. I think that was a little too far down here. I can lift some of that out. And just going to put a little bit of this all the way up so I have a nice even transition. There we go. I'm just going to rinse my brush. Now once I have, and I'm just taking and tapping it on my paper towel, and then I'm going to come in and I'm just going to push back. Right? Just kind of wiggling and pushing right back on the paper, and that lifted it right out of the area I didn't want it. Okay. So now this just looks like it has picked up. I'm just wetting that and I'm going to lift. Looks like it picked up a little bit of the graphite from my sketch. And I'm going to take my kneaded eraser. Keep them in these little tiny containers that I just got from the dollar store, and they tend to keep my kneaded erasers soft. They don't dry out. I don't know if yours do, if you just leave them about. I haven't really tried. I used to keep mine in like a Ziploc bag. Now I just keep it in one of those little tiny containers because it's perfect if I want to throw one into my go bag. I just drop that in there. It doesn't stick to anything. It doesn't get nasty. I'm just lifting out a little bit more of the graphite, just softening those lines up a bit. And when I come in with my lightest values, you're probably still going to see those lines through it. I'm not going to worry about that. I think that's, I need something, like I need to make some merch that says that. I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about that. I hear myself say that a lot, but I just want you guys to realize that you don't have to be concerned if that happens to you. But as soon as I start putting my lighter values in here, you're definitely going to see, like, it won't be so washed out. We're really still quite a bit washed out. So I'm going to pause for a moment. I'm going to mute myself for a moment so that we can dry, because for whatever reason, I don't have that magic hair dryer effect like Joseph has. So I don't want to blast you in your ears either. Okay. Now, usually I prefer to let my backgrounds dry naturally because the color will just keep moving, and watercolor just has a mind of its own, and I love just watching as it does its thing. However, in the interest of time, we'll just go ahead and dry that part. So now I need to get in I want my lightest values. So I'm going to take, let's see if we can't mix up a color for our tulip. I'm going to take some ultramarine violet. I'm going to mix it here. I can mix my greens up there. It drives me crazy. I should just be mixing it on the ceramic plate. This one's not beating up as bad. You see it kind of like, you know, it beats up, like it shrinks down and you just get like all these little bubbles or beads, or the paint separates, or and then I'm going to add to that maybe a little carmine, because our tulip is not exactly purple. It leans a bit more to the red side. Let's throw some. I knew I was going to get overhanded with that, but it's fine. Heavy-handed, right? Red is a strong color. And I have a, it's kind of just off here, one of my other wells. I use this for my dirty water, and I use this for clean water. Both of them have a, well, this is a paint puck, so it's built in, and this one has a paint puck in it. You know me, I still love my paint pucks. Oh, see that right there? That's closer to what we want right there. Yeah. Okay. I think that's good. So now I want the lightest version of that I'm going to need. I'm going to put some over here on my ceramic plate, and I'm just going to add some water to it. And that is going to lighten up our value. Now, one thing we don't want to do is, see, my brush is full of water. Like if you see, it's dripping. That's what I'm using to mix up the value of my paint. I do not want to just go to my painting with that. There's going to be way too much water. So now if I take and I put my towel right at the base of the belly of my brush and just touch it, it will draw out. You'll draw out a little bit of pigment too, but it'll draw out a lot of the extra water that's in your brush. And then you can go into painting. Now you're not going to be dripping. However, I'm going to rinse my brush because I want to wet my petals, and I'm going to want to work kind of wet and wet, because I think there's a lot of room for some really cool techniques with wet and wet. So I'm just going to come over my entire tulip. I'm going to try to avoid, that's my dirty water. I don't want dirty water. I want clean water. I'm going to try to avoid the leaves. Right, so when I come down through here, I'm being careful because I have leaf that sticks up in front of my tulip. And I'm wetting the area, but I'm not wetting the bottom where my tulip is actually very pale green, because that's where it's turning into the stem. And it is warm in the studio today. I don't know how warm it is where you are, but it's about 82 degrees Fahrenheit up here in my area of Maine today. Okay. So my tulip is wet. Now, what I can do is I have sections at the top of this petal and this petal and this petal that are actually white in the tip. So when I put, you see that the paint is separating? Did you see the different colors in there? I love that. The ultramarine violet and the carmine. I was seeing the red shift out, the blue shift out. You just want to mix that up again. Okay. I don't know what I don't know what 13 Celsius translates to in Fahrenheit, but it sounds lovely. If it was 13 here, I would not be sweating. Of course, if it was 13 Fahrenheit here, it would be December. All right. So now I'm going to take, and this is going to be like my lightest value. So I'm just going to paint this in all the areas where it's going to be needed, with the exception of the very tops where it is white. And I'm going to want to stop just short of where those are, because I know this is going to bleed towards that area. And hopefully I will still see my marks through, because I just figured lay in all of the lightest value first and then come back with darks. I keep looking at my reference photo. Oh yeah, I missed this little spot up here. There's a little petal up there. The sky should have come down into that, but that's okay. So we're gonna touch things up. We'll touch things up with the pastel pencils. Okay, look at, there's like beautiful granulation happening here. You necessarily have granulation on a flower? Not really. I probably didn't choose wisely when I grabbed the ultramarine violet, because that of course has ultramarine blue in it, which is a wonderfully granulating color in Daniel Smith, which you didn't see the sky granulate too much because it was such a light wash. If I went a lot heavier with the pigment, you would have seen that for sure. Now right here, from where the point of this leaf is, I want to lift color. It goes right up towards, and I wanted to lift the color. I didn't want to deposit the color. So when I pulled, where my mistake was there, is when I pulled like this, I let the tip of my brush come, and that pulled that color There we go. See, it like it leaves it behind. I want to make sure I pull that away. There we go. There is a very faint, now some of this will push back in, but there's like a highlight right here on this petal. So I want to leave for that highlight to be there, because that's one of the brightest spots other than my white. All right, now I'm going to let that start to dry, and I'm going to work on maybe this leaf in the background while I'm letting that layer dry. And I'm going to just kind of turn my palette so that that paint is away. And we're going to work on a green. I think we're going to go with, let's see what this is when I activate it. All right, let's make up some more. So I got some sap green. If you're wondering what colors I'm using, there's some sap green. That could be nice. That could be nice for our base. But we have areas that are gonna be darker. We have some areas that will be lighter. If I want to brighten it, and it's warm. If I wanted to warm it up, I would bring in one of my two yellows here. I have Hansa Yellow Medium, and then I have New Gamboge. New Gamboge is a warmer of the yellows. To lighten this up and just kind of cool that value down, I'd probably choose the Hansa Yellow Medium. It's more of a neutral yellow. And I want to do, I'm going to take some of the rich gold also when I get to the stem of the flower. But for now, we're going to do, because that's very, very warm. But for now, working on this back leaf, I need to darken up this value. So I'm going to take my sap green and I'm going to add just a tiny bit of neutral tint in there. Okay, now I have a very dark value, because my darkest green, I'm going to pull some of this over here because I'm going to need to lighten that up in a minute. Okay, my darkest green is going to be right out here, this edge. I'm going to quickly make this transition. So, and in here. So right now I'm painting wet on dry. My paper was dry when I started. And I'm just charging this area with that darker paint, that darker value. Just pulling, so I'm making this so that it's a little bit lighter. Now some of that will travel up there, and that's okay. But you see how this is a lighter value than this is. And I just did that by pulling down gently with the tip of my brush. And then where I lift, it redeposits most of that paint, and that will travel back up that space, but it won't travel all the way to the end. So this is going to start having that lighter value there. And I want this to be a soft transition because I'm going to come back with the lighter value. I don't want to go up against this yet because I want that part to dry. So I'm just going to soften this transition, and I do that with just a brush with some clean water. I always start away from where my paint is, and then I bring it to connect. And so that way there, I shouldn't end up with a hard line there. It should just gradually blend up into that space. And then I'll do the same thing when I come back down over it. And then you won't have a line where you've painted one and then met the other. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, just drop a comment and let me know if you're lost on what the heck I was just talking about. All right, so now again, painting wet on dry. My paper was dry. My brush is full of wet paint, wet on dry. For those of you who already know this, you're probably like, duh, but there are people who don't understand wet on dry versus wet on wet. Now, if I came in with another color or more paint, I would then be painting, in this same space, I would then be painting wet on wet. And I'm going to lift this because I want some of this dark to just naturally come down. So I'm just going to lift it slightly, and you'll see that that'll start to travel downward on that leaf. All right. So next, I think I can also do this leaf here because it's not really touching anything. I just have to be really careful as I get near my flower, because my flower up here, it's not wet, but it's not like soaking wet, but it is still very much damp, and it will bleed if I touch that space. So I'm going to want to be careful up there. But for that, I want the same type of green, but I want it much lighter. So remember, I put some on my palette over here. I'm going to just grab the water. Remember, if I want to lighten a color, I add water. And I'm just grabbing the clean water. And I could do that with like a pipette and drop it there. See, now I've got much more paint. This value is going to be much lighter. I do not want, remember, I don't want to just come at my painting. So I'm just dabbing the belly of my brush. I only take a little bit of paint off that way, but it's not dripping now. Thank you. Okay, so for this one here, we're just gonna come in. It's darkest right here in this bend. So I'm gonna start there because like the leaf is coming up and then it turns like this. So in that turn right here is where it's darkest. So I'm gonna start there because when I have the most paint on my brush, I'm gonna start by depositing it in the darker area. I'm not afraid if this part is darker. So I want to start there and then pull down. And you see, the more I pull out without reloading my brush, the lighter it gets. And that's not a dark enough value yet, but it is nice and light up here at the tip. So I want to make sure I put that in. And these values are not quite dark enough, but again, I want the darkest part to be in that bend. So I'm going to come over it one more time. This is charging. I'm charging in with more color. And you see I'm pulling up because as I lift, it'll deposit that color from my brush. So if I start here and I lift up, if I let go there, you see it deposited the color right there. You'll actually, as soon as I lift the brush, you'll see the drop of color and then it'll start to disperse. I want it to disperse in this section. And so that's why I'm pulling. So if I start again, I want this tip to be nice and light. So I'm not going to start all the way out to the point. I'm going to start just a little bit lower and I'm going to pull. And you see, as I'm pulling, every time I lift my brush, it's leaving a deposit of more of that pigment right there in the darker area. That's the area I want to be darkest. Okay, and then in here, we also have, this is the light color. We can do this one too. And then we're going to go back to the, flower. So you see here, this is part of this same leaf at the back, but this is shadowed because it's like the inside of that leaf. But down here, it's catching more light, and this is coming in front of it, this leaf. So there's more shadow back here, there's more shadow here, and we're going to pick up more shadow down here from the stem of the plant. But first, I'm going to fill this entire leaf in. That's part of the other one. And I'm not painting this is going to be a good color to use for shadowing my stem, but I'm not painting that in yet because the stem itself is a much warmer green. So I'm just charging in now that the area is already wet. I'm bringing more pigment and pushing in there. I'm charging that area. I don't want too much. I don't want it to be too wet. And then down here, I'm grabbing my darker value because down here, it is much darker. And there's more of a crisp line on that. So I'm going to put this darker value in here, but I'm not going to worry about bringing it up as far as I actually need it, because when this is dry, I will then go wet on dry again, and I'll make that actually happen the way it's supposed to. And I've got a little bit too much here, so I'm just going to kind of grab some of that out. My brush was clean. I dried it off. And you'll see I'm just going to lift some of this out. I want it to be darker to the inside, but I can make that up. I can make that happen when I come back with the next layer. Or I could even make that happen with my pastel pencils. I just totally drew a blank. I'm seeing here that this was wetter, and this is going to give me a cauliflower if I leave this sit like this. So I'm just going to kind of spread this paint out a little bit more so that it can't do that. I don't want a cauliflower effect on this leaf. There we go. I don't mind a little texture. That's not going to bother me. All right, let's go back to our flower. Again, I'm going to come back to this side of my plate with the color we mixed. Okay. So to start with, let me just start to define. I'm going to still take, and I'm mixing this back together because again, I've had some separation. But I'm still going to take this lighter value and I'm just going to start to define where my darker values are going to go. So I know that in here, and again, now I am painting wet on mostly dry. I'm going to say mostly dry. And actually, I'm going to switch up. I'm just going to grab my number 4 round. I just want a little bit more control of where I'm putting this. And there's still a lot of paint here, so I'm not even going to grab paint on my brush. It's wet. It's dabbed off on my paper towel. And I'm just going to let this suck up that paint, and now I can move it around. So I'm just starting to lay in where my values are going to be. And that is not going to be dark enough yet, but you're going to start to get the idea. Just going to start to take shape. And you see, I have not gotten any more paint yet because I want this area that I'm working. There's mid values here that I want to kind of accentuate that. Okay. So now we're starting to have the shape of our first petal. Now in here, we're going to have a very dark mark. And it's going to be something like this. 'This. 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 ' That's where that petal is moving back. And this is not dark enough yet, but we'll get there. We want to build slowly. We don't want to just dive in and end up too dark right away. You want to build your values with watercolor, because it's easy to put on another layer and make something darker. It's a lot harder sometimes when you have to pull that off. All right, so I also have a dark value. And again, I'm starting lower than I want this to reach, because I'm going to want to pull it up into that space and get a nice fine point. And that's going to come around. And there's another one over here. And I just keep looking back and forth at my reference photo. This is where my other leaf is. And I have some more. This comes, there's a white area. It comes right down here. About here. This edge, and I'm just going to pull I'm barely touching to pull some of this color into the edge of this petal, because it kind of frays in there. And I want that to lighten up, so I'm going to rinse out my brush and just tapping next. Just want a damp brush, and I'm going to blend that out. This, I'm pulling around. This is where that highlight is, which it needs to be darkened just slightly. There we go. Okay, we're starting to get somewhere. I need a very dark value right in here. Kind of define the edge of this. There's a petal on the edge. This petal that comes down. Just gonna pull that in there. And it actually has a little bit of a dark on the outer edge as well. There we go. And that comes up to this one, which also has a darker spot in there. So that was that petal right here. Comes around this way to the back. Now I'm just using a little bit of what's left in my brush to pull down some marks that are of a mid value. all the way down here. And I'm being conscious to follow the shape of that petal. All right. Now under here, this is going to get much darker. Need a little more water on my brush. My paint's drying on my palette. Get that wet. This is not quite the darkest value. Just adding a little bit more water because it's not the darkest value, but it's almost. Our darkest value is actually going to be in this space right here. And this has to get much darker. But under here, we're going to define part of the edge of where this leaf is. This leaf comes up like this, and then we have its cast shadow. And its cast shadow goes like this. I'm just kind of softening this edge just a little bit. There we go. This will have to darken up as well. So while I just have a little bit of the remnants of that paint on my brush, I was just adding and building the value over here. Because these kind of come around. That petal's like scooping. And this is taking away some of that granulation I got with my first wash. Starting to take shape. All right, I'm going to take a little bit of this darker value and blend it in with this one here. All right, and we're going to come back at this petal, which certainly needs to darken up its outside edge. Not too dark. This one actually needs to be darker than that. Like, we don't have a lot of chat today. I don't know if everybody's just mesmerized. It's been a while since we've actually painted something specific like this. I'm just kind of lifting back out because that's almost white right there. And I'll take care of the highlight and stuff on that with my pastel pencil afterwards. But I definitely need this value to darken up. So you saw I added water here so I could lighten up that value or re-wet what was on my, I can't mix in a small area. I can never keep it to a small section. I mean, come on, this is the plate. Look at how much my color is taken over. I don't know if you guys do that, but I always do that. My paint just kind of, it grows and grows and grows. So this is still pretty damp. So if I come back in, my brush is a little too wet. So if I come back in and I make some of my marks that I want now on the petal, they're going to, the marks will be there, but they'll kind of blend. You're going to see them blend. So what started out looking like lines is not necessarily going to finish as an actual line because that area was already wet. But I don't mind about that. Okay, I need this yet again. Let's kind of give this a little definition. There we go. This gets a little bit more. And there is actually, this is a perfect, what I have on my brush. There's actually like a line right there. And then we have the other side that comes up and down. And this gets, it's mostly white, but it definitely has some, right, like there's some striation there. There's that bend around. And this is not this light. It is a highlight there, but it's not that light. Is it starting to look like a tulip? I think it's starting to come together. And I'm pretty happy with the color that we mixed with that ultramarine violet and carmine. I think it's pretty close to what our reference photo was. Now this here is missing part of its shape. It comes kind of like this. This one, like, it comes around, so it needs to go almost to the top, like into that space. Comes around, like, around, down, and over. That's better. Teresa says, I love how this is turning out. Thank you. Now I also need a shadow that comes behind. But I need to lift. So if you take your brush, see, I just, like an eraser, I rinsed everything out of it, dry it off, and then pull back down through where you want that color gone, and you can lift that back off usually. All right, I'm not going to go in there with that darker value. I need to put a shadow here. I need to darken this up first. I really want to build up that value so that when I come back and add the shadow from this, oh yeah, that's much better. So this again was wet on dry, but I don't have a lot of water. There. That's our darkest value in our flower, for sure, right there. And we have one that's almost that dark up here. So I'm going to tap this in, the same paint, but because this is all wet, it's going to disperse and it's not going to be as dark as this was. This, because I was painting wet on dry, and I did not have a lot of water left in the paint on my palette. This, I'm getting that really dark value. But this here, taking that same dark value that was on my brush, I need this in here to be a little bit darker. And I can touch that in and it's going to disperse. You see how like that's not even lifting that right there. That's pretty much dry. I'm going to have to give that a spritz. But it's perfect for coming along this edge and just dropping in some of this dark color that's supposed to be there, and that'll work its way into that petal. We can darken this up just a little bit too. What's on my palette looks like it could be an iris over here, over here. On the plate or on the metal tin. All right. Hopefully nobody's experiencing buffering. All of a sudden it just popped up on me on the plate. So on here, yeah. And no, I'm on the right thing. So hopefully it's not. Hopefully it's not having any problem on your end, because all of a sudden this big yellow popped up. I'm just giving this a little spritz. And this little spritz, I'm just putting my hand up because I'm protecting my painting. I don't want this spray on here. What are we on for time? Okay, well, this is, see, I am definitely, look, guys, I am certainly, when I'm trying to do realistic, I am not Lisa. Let me just say. Lisa, I am not. Definitely takes me longer to paint it. Okay, good. Tara says there's no buffering on her end. Hopefully it'll just go away. I don't know why it's doing it. It shouldn't be anything on my end. I don't know. One time it was mine. I was like connected to my guest network instead of my main network, but Lou's outside messing in the yard. So I know he's not even on anything in the house. So there's no way. There's no way it's me. I'll call BS on that. It's not me. All right, I'm gonna glaze over. I think I'm gonna just glaze over this, and let's see what happens. Because I want to darken this whole section up, but I uniformly want to darken it up. Like I want to darken all of it up. Yeah, I think that certainly worked. I think that achieved my goal. I needed all of that to be dark, so by using a nice thin wash over top of it, I was able to darken that petal up. I still have to get this shadow put in, and it goes over here and down. It follows this line down, and it's the shadow from this petal. So that has to go in. This also needs to darken out. My values are not dark enough there. You see, sometimes I'm taking my darker value and I'll come over here with my lighter value so that when I go to my painting, I have a nice mid-range. So I need to, that mid-range come down. Well, that looks a little dark. It's a little intimidating, I'm not gonna lie. But I know that as I work this, it's going to get lighter. So I'm not worried. I'm not scared. And besides, it's just a piece of paper, right? There's no need to let it intimidate you. It's just a piece of paper. I'm pushing that back down towards the base. It's going to be darker towards the base. So when I move my paint, you see how I move, and you see that ball of paint? I'm moving the extra paint. I'm going to keep moving it And I'm just going to deposit it near that outer and bottom edge. That is where I want it darker anyways. Now on this side, we definitely want this to get darker. There we go. I need that to dry because I need to darken this part up even more, but it needs to dry. Otherwise, it's just going to keep moving and bleeding in with everything else. This is going to need to be a little bit darker. Okay. Again, I put the color in and now I'm just going to pull around. Which is just blending it out so I don't get a hard edge there. You see how when I first put that down, it was really dark. See, it's really dark here, but as I continue to move that color, it's not so dark. It's just because there's a larger pool of it right in here, which I don't mind for the bottom. This is almost white. This is not white. It's a very pale, pale purple. So by going over that now, all of my other values are keep getting darker. Now that has that pink color, pinkish purple color that I'm wanting, I can kind of let that be. Continue to pay attention to the direction that petal is moving. And I'm going to have to mix up some more, which when I mix up more, I'm going to definitely use a much bigger brush to mix it up of my dark value because it's gotten a little bit too much water in there. But what do you think so far? Our tulip is starting to really take shape. Next, we're going to get our darkest values in really kind of balance that out, and we'll get our other leaf in here, the top of this leaf here, and our stem color. So we're going to work on that. I think we can hit all three of those. I'm going to give this a dry real quick because I don't need to worry about things moving and blending. So let me give that a quick dry, and then we'll be right back and work on our leaves. You can see here, because I had that heat tool going and this cutting mat, it's very flexible. See what I mean about the tape wanting to pop up? But that's okay. At the end, please, if you remind me at the end, I will show you how you can take care of any of the warping that you get at all. And it's just because I was using that heat tool. If I would have let this dry on its own, I would not have had any of this, like, if you guys can see that, like the warp, you can see right in here and in here. I wouldn't have like hardly any of that if I had just let it dry on its own like I normally would. Okay, I'm not even going to raise that up anymore. Not right now anyways. If I feel I need it to pull down, you'll see me pop. If you see me pop it back up like this, it just means that I'm wanting that to kind of run downward. But I think we're fine for now. Okay, so the tip of this leaf is very much the same color that we're going to use in the stem, which is like a very very warm, very light yellow. So I'm going to take, I had my green over here, and I am going to come in and just grab, which actually had some green in it from when I was painting the other day, and grab my Hansa Yellow Medium and just blend that right in. And then you see when I, oh, let me pull this back around this side now so you guys can see the color we're working with. When I pull that away, you see how yellow it looks. So my lightest value is going to be like what I'm seeing right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with this. Again, I just want some of that excess moisture out of the belly of my brush. So you just by touching it like that, it pulls out just enough. So you're not putting too much down at once. And I'm going to want this left side to be darker, but this is going to let me know exactly what my value is. And I think that's going to be perfect for my lightest value. So I'm just going to paint the whole stem in that. The left side of my stem is darker. You see that pool of paint that I have there where it looks darker? I'm not going to want to leave that there. It would cause a bloom because it would not dry evenly. So that I'm not going to want to stay like that. And I'm going to bring this into here as well. Right, as it comes up. I'm going to take any of the excess away. Like, see, there's an extra, it's like a dark dot, but if I just dab it real quick, now it's nice and light. I've taken the excess away. And this, I would want the dark on that side, not this side. But there's too much there. So it's fine to sit for now. We just wouldn't want to leave it there the whole time. So now I can put in the tip of this leaf. And I'm just going to dab my brush off now. So now when I pull through, I've lifted that excess. Same thing here. I'm going to come through and I want my lightest side. I don't mind if the extra gets set over here because I have to darken that up. But down here, this is way too much. Like if you're looking at that, can you see how the shine right there? It's just a pool. We definitely don't want that. So I am just going to let my brush suck some of that up, tap it off on my paper towel, and then I want this side to be lighter, so I'm just going to follow that down. Follow around and down. And now that is going to be, I think that's going to be great for my lightest value. And we will just work on darkening this side up, which is kind of, it's a cooler green. So we're going to want to bring something that's cooler into this. I could do a drop of zoisite or undersea green. Undersea green is beautiful. Something like that, just something that's going to cool it down. Or a blue. If you don't have one of those, you just a little bit of a blue, very sparingly, will cool that green down. Okay, so this is going to come back to the regular green that we were using. So I'm going to get this wet again. Remember, this was our darkest green, but now that I've added water to it, now it's going to be like in here. So I can go ahead and paint this leaf in. I'm going to come right up against the other one. I don't mind that it's giving me an extra line down because I need to darken all this value up. So again, that doesn't bother me. And see, if I left that pool there, it's going to give me a bloom. It's going to cauliflower because there's too much moisture here. The rest of this is going to dry faster and I'm going to get these weird edges. Sometimes that's fine. If that's, you know, a look that you're going for, there's nothing wrong with those. But in this case, it's not exactly what I want. See how I'm just doing a nice, and where that line was, if I give a little scrub right there, because that's where I had stopped before, if you recall. But now, because just scrubbing that a little extra, by scrubbing, I just mean I move my brush back and forth over it. I'm not pressing really hard. I'm not getting a scrubbing brush. These are like very hard. They damage your paper. So I'm not getting anything like that. I am just scrubbing up that area so that the paint will reactivate and move. And now I just want to, again, not leave a pool of paint anywhere awkward. Pull that down. These might blend a little bit. It's going to be fine. They still need another layer, and I can always come back with my pastel pencils and fix the details. I also need to bring this color up here because I've got to cool this part of it down. It's only the tip. Only the tip of that leaf is that brighter color. Okay, I'm gonna give while I'm working here. This is gonna need another coat as well. And again, my stem, I'm sure, is not quite dry yet, but I'm not worried about putting another layer on this leaf. And I don't know why these are not touching. I don't know what I did. I need to get some darker. I don't know why they're not quite touching. I think this is supposed to be where the stem is brightest. So I'm just going to bring it to it like that and just leave it like a highlight there. And again, you know, there is a spot that's almost white, and yeah, I think our pastel pencils will certainly make short work of that. Again, we want this area right here to be our darkest values. This certainly needs a more defined transition here. Like this comes more to a point, but I'm gonna have to wait for this to dry to emphasize that dark point. And I need to darken this value up inside here too, because that's the darkest value on my leaves. So there we have the base coat for our leaves. I'm gonna actually come in on, I don't hardly have any of this left, but we'll see if I can get enough on the brush. Under here, we have a line, and then down this side, we have a shadow. There we go. That's going to need another, you know, another layer to really emphasize that. Or, again, maybe we'll just do it with the pastel pencils. I'm gonna focus back on, I'm gonna dry just this upper section so that I know my yellow and green areas won't bleed into my flower. And we're gonna put on another layer of paint on our flower. Then I'm gonna dry it, and we're gonna finish off in the last 15 minutes or so with our pencils, with our pastel pencils. If you guys are enjoying the stream today, I hope you've smashed that thumbs up button, and afterwards, you know, if you come back and leave a comment, or if you're watching this on the replay, drop me a comment. What did you think of today's project? YouTube definitely rewards interaction, and one thing that I've just heard recently is that a comment that's 5 words or more, YouTube really picks that up as interaction. And if somebody else leaves a comment and you agree with them, or you have something else to add, don't be afraid to reply to somebody else's comment as well. I'm not the only one that can reply to other people's comments. I would love to see discussion happening in the comments below, because, you know, then that's only going to help us on YouTube. And we are only 106 subscribers away from our goal of hitting that first 1,000. And so thank you to everyone who has subscribed. If something you've been possibly considering, please hit that subscribe button. You know, I know some of you know that I have had kind of had a little leave of absence from YouTube. I had some health issues, but that's resolving for the most part, fortunately, right now. And I'm getting back to it. I have lots of ideas for videos that are coming, which I cannot wait to share with you. We've got new stuff going on Patreon, which I'm very excited. Our studio membership has their live interactive studio hangout tomorrow. We're on Zoom. What happens is you get a link to click into the Zoom meeting, and you can choose to show what you're working on, or just talk with everybody that's there, see what other people are working on. So it's kind of like getting together in a studio and working on art together. Sometimes we work on the same project, and other times we all work on our own thing, but we just hang out and talk, and it's a lot of fun. So if that sounds like something you might be interested in, maybe Patreon is right for you. you can check that out. I am sure that the mods will drop a link for us. Oh, thank you so much, Teresa. Teresa says, I love the texture in the tulip. Oh, thank you, Tara. Tara, yeah, it's there. So there you go, guys, for Patreon. And actually, it's as little as $5. That's changed, Tara. There's $5 tier, a $10 tier, and a $20 tier now. So yeah, I just don't want to steer you wrong. You guys show up there thinking that there's one, and you go, "Where is it? There's nothing here for $3." Okay, so I'm going to take this, and I think I'm going to grab right over here a little bit of this, and I'm coming into my neutral tint. Way too much neutral tint, so I'm just going to do it again over here. There we go. See how dark that is? That, I believe, is going to be much more the value that belongs in here. And if that looks really bold right now, doesn't it? But I'm just going to put my paper towel on it and lift a little bit. There we go. Remember, watercolor dries lighter. But did you see I just pressed and lift? Now you'll notice this time I mixed this up a little warmer. It looks pretty close, but I went a little warmer. Some of this looks like it needs like a little more reddish hue to it. I'm going to move that as I don't want to stick my brush in that. I don't know. Hopefully we'll do it like this. We're going to get that off the palette. There we go. All right. So let's get this darkened up. I like the overall look. I like the striations that are happening in the petals of the tulip. And that I think is great. I think we have our range here is okay, but our values overall are not dark enough. So I'm going to throw some glazes in, and I'm going to darken up a few areas that need to be darkened. For example, we definitely need, there you go, that is correct. That is correct. This in here needs to be a little bit darker. And then we get this line comes out. That starts to be part of the shadow from that petal. I'm just making sure also, now that I have this laid in, that my tulip is making, contact with that leaf. That I don't have any weird spaces. Like here, there's kind of a weird space there. There shouldn't be. It should be part of the tulip, or that should be part of the leaf. And it's actually part of the tulip, and there actually should be a little bit of green. When I brought that green, I should have come around right up into this space, but that's okay. I can touch that up. We can add that back. I have it right here, so I'm not worried about that. Let me just bring that in. All right. Okay, it comes over, and we'll just dab that right up in there. Here we go. All better. I don't usually do flowers. Flowers are not something I generally tend to paint. And Tara said, I don't know about anyone else, but this is really making me want to paint some flowers. And Yeah, it's flowers aren't something it's not my normal forte, if you would. Definitely not what I normally gravitate towards. Um, but gosh, I sure do take a lot of pictures of them. And I just thought, I think I had to lift that. I just got too close to my leaf. I kind of went over my leaf. And I thought, I'm going to do me some flowers. And then I couldn't decide on which flower. So, yeah, you guys got to make that choice. And I'm glad that we went with the tulip because I think that the way that I want to do the center of the purple coneflower, I don't think that would, I think I would need more time, or I'd want more time. Joseph says, I always want to paint flowers. Does it still count? Yes. I don't know why it's not something that's called to me, but I mean, I think landscapes called to me more. Um, I like to do a lot more of that. But like I said, I've got flowers all over outside. I love to take pictures of them. There we go. Let's get this right in here. Follow it down. And now we need to get, this needs some darker value too. Oh, sorry, I lost my train of thought, guys. Yeah, what is your favorite thing to paint? Drop me a comment and let me know. What is your favorite thing to paint? Flowers, landscapes, animals? What is it? Do you like to paint realistic? Do you like loose? Do you like illustrative? What's your favorite? What's your favorite thing? Let me know in the comments. I am darkening up our shadow that our leaf is casting. And then again, just want to kind of blend some of this out. Teresa says hummingbirds and flowers. So birds, you know what I want to do? I want to create like not a realistic bird, but like a character like type bird, a character. So more of an illustrative style bird. I'd really like to do some like that and just have fun with them. So that's something that I think you're going to see coming. I definitely want to do some more, or I want to do some more. I haven't done any. I want to do some of those. All right, let's get that. I'm trying to make sure I follow along the way this shape would be. And I think this needs a little bit of a wash. We're going to risk it all. We are going to risk it all. I am going to mix up a really light, like this, kind of leaning more pink. And we're going to give this a wash. Being careful to avoid some of the areas that should be white. And then if I have any other spots that I need to come back and darken up, I'll do that. All right, that's pulling paint off as that is. There we go. Look at that. This needs to be darker out here. And it needs to be darker in here. Now, Tara does some amazing portraits. Tara is one of our moderators. Tara, do you have any videos of your portraits on your YouTube page or on your YouTube channel? Brain's not working. Or perhaps on Instagram. Drop your, is it at Tara Giblin Art on Instagram? Is that what you are? Drop that in the chat. Don't you have the one you did of the singer on Instagram? Tara does some amazing portraits, guys. I'm like, gosh, I would love to do portrait work like Tara does. Portraits just aren't my thing. I can do them. I don't enjoy doing them. And that is definitely the difference, right? It does not spark joy for me. All right, I think I need to dry this because when I do that wash, the glaze, when I do the glaze over this, it needs to be, this needs to be dry. So let me dry that real quick. Pop my little, I love my little paint. Well, this one is not actually paint pot, guys. This one is the one I got on Temu for like, if you've never ordered from Temu before, you can probably get it for free or next to free. I think I paid 80 cents for this one. I can tell you, I don't know the exact amount on Amazon for a paint puck, but those are probably going to cost you closer to $30 plus or minus versus I got this one for like $1. Rob got one too, I think he said on Temu, and I was jealous. His was a prettier color. I'm not a red pink fan. Of course, my nails are pink today, but yeah. I don't remember the color. I don't think I had a choice of the color when I got mine. I didn't care. I was just like, it's like a paint puck. I wanted, and I like it. It works just like my paint puck does. The silicone's a little thinner than the actual paint pucks, but it works. It functions, and I guess that's all that counts. You know, Joseph says I refuse to use Temu. Like, I was like, I'll try it once. I think I spent like $10 the first time and got a bunch of stuff, free shipping, whatever. And I was like, I'll try it once. I'm only out, a few dollars if it was a scam. But I got all my stuff. And yeah, it's like cheap stuff from China. But this was the big thing. I got the one like this. Let me just say, highly do not recommend. This is a waste of your money. It's a piece of crap. And if you've seen these advertised, I don't even care if you see them advertised on Amazon. I'm telling you right now, don't buy one. They're a piece of crap and a waste of your money. The reason being, well, first off, I had to put a rubber band in this so it wouldn't leak and everything leak out, and then this fills up and it spills everywhere because unless you plunge it to release your water, and then you see this little tiny water well, that is the size of the water well. That is not enough to rinse anything. Don't buy one of these. These are not the way to go. Go with the original rinse well, which I have one of those too. If you guys ever want to see that, I'll show it again. But if you want something like that, go with the rinse well. Not that one. Okay, so we're drying this. Yeah, Joseph says they're loaded with counterfeit goods. Yeah, I was just like, I'll try it because I wanted to get this, but I'm not a fan, and I haven't really shopped there anymore. But I'm gonna mute this. We're gonna dry, and do our wash, and then let's finish up with some pencils. Okay, we're probably going to run over by a few minutes. I wanted to be done by 5, but looking at the time, it's probably going to be a little later than that. I apologize. Okay. I mean, not that there's any rule that it has to be, you know, within so many minutes, but I like to be conscious of your time. I mean, when I get in the groove, I can just sit in here and paint all afternoon, no problem. But that doesn't mean that's what you want to do or what you want to watch. Okay, so that is definitely, I want this just to be a glaze, right? I just want a light wash. I want to warm this up with more of the pinker value or the pinker hue, right? So I don't want this to be more paint versus water. I want there to be more water versus paint because I want it to be very light. I can always go over it again. Getting ready to paint over my entire tulip. I can't undo it, right? Hey, Dylan. Oh, thank you. Dylan says, I love that tulip. Happy birthday to your husband. It's Dylan's husband's birthday today. Everybody say happy birthday, Mike. Ready, everybody?
Happy birthday!
There we go. All right. Let's just go for it. Let's get this glaze on. You see how quickly that goes. You saw what I had mixed up there. It goes pretty fast. And I want to be careful because I don't want to put too much water down and I don't want to brush over with too many strokes either because that's going to activate everything below. And I'll start pulling like right there. I pulled some of that darker paint. So you definitely want to just, like over here, it did the same. I don't mind so much because over here, I'm going to lift out a highlight again. I wanted, like, I want it to be darker, but I'm actually really happy with the way that that is on that side. I lost some of my dark here, but I'm not going to worry about it because we will define this with our pastel pencils here in just a moment. So what do you think now? If you've seen if you're looking at the reference photo, I think now our value is a lot closer to what our reference was, and I am happy with that. So I'm just going to give it a dry, and I'm going to put the watercolor paints to the side, and we are going to, now that is that going to drip? Yeah, it is. I'm just going to wipe this out. And normally I'll set it behind me. Normally I just like to let my palettes dry because I know that's straight up ultramarine and I'll use that again. So I don't need that anymore. I'm not going to need that so much anymore. I'm making space so I can bring my pastel pencils out here. All right. I got to give this a quick dry, and then let's just touch up and do our final touches on this. We need to do a bit of work on our leaves, but I think those are going to come together pretty quickly. So I'm going to mute you one more time while I dry the upper part, because I need this to be dry when I go on it with my pastel pencils. Okay. Don't mind me, guys. I am just bringing, and I don't know why it makes it so big when you first bring it on. I really don't, but just bringing our reference photo up so you guys can take, I'll put it over here on this side. How's that? And that way there, we can see what we're working on. So far, I'm liking the way that that is looking. This could even be darkened up a little bit more. These definitely have some darkening to go, but I think that we are going to be able to pull it all together with our pastel pencils. And then, of course, this becomes mixed media, yes, but that's fine. So let's start with our tulip, with our flower. I'm looking for scrap paper. So you guys can't see it because my scrap paper is over here, but this is just going to give me, like, see, that might work for in here. So I'm just kind of checking my colors. And I know this is going to be way too purple. I'd probably have to blend these two together to kind of get that, but that makes it really dark. So I'm not so much a fan of that. That's better. I think we're going to go with that right there. I think that if I put it up here beside my tulip, that looks a lot closer. Okay. All right. So in my darker areas, I think this will add, I think this will work nicely. And I think it comes into play over here. All right, I'm just gonna blend. You may see me do some blending. Do I have a little brush? I'd rather blend it with a little brush versus my finger. Yeah. It's just a little filbert, like a tackle-on. And I'm just going to use that to kind of blend. If I need to blend edges in, I'll just use that. So you're going to see me kind of go back and forth. And I like how that just smoothly blends out. Nice. All right. And I need to sharpen this is what I need. Just not sure. Last time I went to sharpen one, it was like, it wasn't having it. Oh, isn't it? Tara says it's interesting to see how we are all drawn to different things to paint. Yeah, that's why I said drop me a comment. Let me know. What is your favorite? What is your favorite thing to paint? So here I'm just kind of gently going over this area, and I could just leave the marks like this, but I'm going to do a little blending just to soften. I'm tapping. I am not really rubbing. I'm just kind of tapping that pencil, like tapping it into the tooth of the paper, if you would. Look at that. All right, I am liking that. And then I'm going to take where we have our darker marks and come back with this. In case you're wondering the colors, right. This is that 330? Yes, 1400/330. 1400, I believe, is just, yeah, it just signifies the carbothello, the pastel, but it's number 365 and 330. So if you have this set already, those are the colors I'm using right now, 330 and 365. Hope that helps. Hope that helps a little. There we go. And I'm just going to tap that. And now I think I need a highlight color, so I want it to be, I wish there was a lighter pink. There's not. So I'm going to go with this one. And this is number 681. Let's just give this a try. Actually, no. I changed my mind. It's my prerogative. I changed my mind. I'm going to go, because I need to do the white parts too, which kind of look gray. This is number 110. So I'm going to come in over the top. Okay, right over the top. So this, and work that down. Work a little bit of that in, and I'm going to just bring it down. I need to go to this side of my highlight and this side of my, it's not a highlight. I need to put my highlight to the right of that dark space. And now grab my brush and I'm just tapping. I don't want it to completely disappear, but I just want to lighten it up a little bit. And I do have my paper towel here, which I just keep kind of brushing off the pastel in there. So you're going to see me kind of manipulate brush, pencils, and hopefully I don't try to grab the wrong pencil at one point. I wouldn't put it past me. Sounds like something I would do. Okay, there we go. I think I'm happy with that part. So we need to bring this, the gray. I'm pulling up so that I get a little bit of that pink into this. And I'm going to blend that out. Okay, so I think I am happy to there. We're going to do this last petal now. And I think for this part, we need a bit more of the red value coming in. Right? And it also transfers down here and comes around. Because this is really more of a red than purple at that point. I mean, what would you call this? It's a red color, but it's like a red purple. It's not really magenta. Okay, we need more of that red over here. Not so much there. A little bit up here. I'm going to pull, this is actually a bit warmer. So I am going to go back and grab that other number 681. This one is actually a little warmer. So I'm going to pull some of this in. But then I'm also going to come back and bring a little bit of this. Just kind of blend the two. I need a little bit in here. And we're definitely, I don't want to lose that highlight that comes up through there. Bring some of this down in. Hopefully this will really quickly take its shape. Kind of put that a little where I didn't want it, but that's okay. I think I can blend it. I'm not going to worry about it. I think I can blend it away. Right, want darker. I definitely want to mix the two down here. I really wish that I had, what is the color? Nightshade. Oh, Nightshade I think would give me a beautiful shadow from my leaf. Or like in this dark part. I think Nightshade would look beautiful there. I do need to darken that. I said I was happy with that, but I'm noticing that that's not quite dark enough. And this is 770. I'm just darkening that one space in there a little bit more. I've shifted all my colors here. There we go. I don't use they come with this for blending, like blending stump. I don't use that. And I know that like Jason Morgan has said that the sharpener that they give you with these, he does not like. So I'm still trying to find a sharpener that I will like with these. You guys don't see me use pencils very often, do you? All right, so now again, I'm just tapping to blend this and get that pastel into the tooth of the paper very lightly over my little highlight area. Whoa, I did not want to drop that on my project. I was like, no, don't let it fall. My hands just quit working. Look at the way that's blending. I am liking that. Look at that. Oh, the brush definitely keep me on my toes. I wish they had a lighter. There's just not enough colors. This needs to be lighter. So we're just going to try to put in a little bit of this highlight here and see if we can't blend that in and get, ooh, brush and brush. There we go. Just to get that, more of that highlight that it has. Mine is definitely a little bit more, I think mine looks more like the petal looks more veiny. I don't mind. I think that needs a bit more. And I'm sure with more layers that would all, you know, some of this would smooth away and not look so veiny, but I don't mind it. I don't know what you guys think, but I don't mind. I am going to just work with this one more time though, and this time I am not going to blend it in because I want that to stay the darker, that shadow. And actually I am going to use a little bit, I think I'm going to be done with that now. I'm going to use a little bit of the is that 770. It's so hard to read the numbers on that. I think that is 770. Just because I want to really darken up the inner part where that shadow comes down. A little bit more. And I think that my paper is taken about all it is going to want to take from me as far as the flower goes. Okay. Now let's work on our greens. This is probably going to be great for, yes, giving the emphasis to the right side of our, and I'm going to go for it. See, don't worry, just go for it. I'm just double checking my reference photo. Okay, so I get some dark marks under here. This is a little bit darker through there. And then this side darkens up. Right? Now let's blend that. And for underneath the flower, I'm kind of blending into it. And the bottom is a little bit more gray, like as it comes into, it's almost like a gray. Let's just go ahead and put that in there. Yeah. And then we're gonna again, I'm just kind of dabbing along, blend those two together and get that into the tooth of my paper. All right, we really need to cool off this green. I think we're gonna have to do a mixture here because I don't quite think that this one is gonna cut it. You guys can't see that, but it's not quite there. But you're just gonna see me manipulate these three greens, and it is number 530, 575, and 585. Those are the colors that I'm using right now, and we're just gonna quickly finish up our leaves. So for this one, I think we can bring more of this in. I'm going to blend this with the cooler green. And as we come down here, what we didn't go back and paint was inside this one. It gets dark. Like, it's dark on this inside. It goes like this. It's really dark in here. It's also dark. We're seeing in the fold of this leaf right here. That one also gets dark in there. And I'm going to bring that right down, just like that. I need to bring this up. And we need to darken this. And bring it down to the point. See, that's not, we didn't have to paint that point in. We were going to be able to get that back. And we're going to darken this. I'm also going to bring a little bit of that cool green into it. And we're going to kind of blend them. And this front one, I think, is the coolest of all of the leaves. It's not like it's cool. The temperature of the color is cool. And again, through here, we're going to have to darken it up. Like so. And then this one has a little bit of dark coming around this way. All right, let's see how we blend those out and see what we've got. There is not a ton of, for this is a cold pressed paper. But for a cold pressed paper, there's not a lot of texture. It's like not a very coarse texture. So filling up the tooth of this paper with this pastel doesn't take a whole lot. I think I need some cooler value in there too. I'm not liking this transition. There we go. This is still a little like gritty looking from the pastel. Like I didn't have it blended enough. I need to darken this up a little bit more. Now I could have chosen to do this with colored pencil as well versus the charcoal versus pastel pencils. I certainly could have chosen to do it in colored pencils. I think that it would have worked very well. Perhaps next time we'll do that instead. I'm just taking some of that dark that I know I just got on my brush from brushing this and just adding it into the fold of that leaf. I got just, you see where I went right outside the edge. I'm just going to take my heated eraser and I'm going to fold it and just kind of dab in and lift it right off. Like it never happened. Like it never happened. Okay. Well, what do you guys think? I think that's probably, I'm gonna stop fussing with it. Now, I could hit this with a little fixative because I put the pastel on it. However, to be honest, I don't think I want to. I would worry about the water droplets messing up, like, and I know the blue is very faint in that background, but I would still worry about the droplets from the fixative causing issues with my watercolor, and I just don't want that. So there's our reference photo, guys, and there is our project. Let me turn that reference photo off now. Okay, I'm just going to double check the chat, make sure that I didn't think I had missed anything, but I just wanted to be positive. All right, let's get this tape off. Right, isn't this the most satisfying part? I think so. Sometimes. And you see how like there's a little bit of that ran under here. Oh, look at that edge. Beautiful. If I had used the Holbein soft tape that I was talking about, you absolutely would not, like, that wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't have had any of it bleeding underneath. That tore a tiny bit of my paper. Usually I heat this tape up. That is one thing I will say with this tape. The tack is a little higher. You can, like, if I was wearing jeans, I almost said if I was wearing pants. I am wearing pants, I promise. me. Oh, that is the side. I was trying to get me in there. Let me just swap that out. Boom. Okay. So, yeah, you might like stick it to your clothing once or twice before you stick it on there. But then my concern though is that I would have stuff running under my tape more. It just seems that when I use that Holbein soft tape, I don't get tearing on my paper, and like it tore just a tiny bit right there. I don't get that, and I don't get this, like, see where it bled. Let me get this out of the way. There's the mat I was talking about. I buy them at the Dollar Tree, which I have to grab some, stick in a box for Tara apparently because she won't be able to get them. So see the little bleed through right there? I don't get that with the soft tape. It just doesn't happen. And yeah, the soft tape, don't smudge it. It's a piece of, I'm like, I can see a little bit of dust on this outer edge from my pastel pencils. I'm just pulling that off. You see, it's like, see the green on there? Just pulling it off the edge. That's all. All right, let's give this a sign. I don't know where I want to sign it. I think I'm going to sign it on this side. There we go. Our tulip with our little blue washed background right there. If you paint this, again, please share it on social media. Tag me in it. The reference photo is free. You can find it on Patreon, which should be right there, scrolling right above me right now, with the link to Patreon. And, you know, check out our tiers. Check out what we have to offer while you're there and see if it's something that might be right for you. We're getting real close to our goal. And so if you would, you know, do the things like subscribe, turn on the bell if you want notifications for when we go live. We try to go live every Thursday. Huge thank you to my patrons for all of your support. And thanks for joining me today. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. I'm going to pop another video up. It's going to come right about here. And for you to watch that you might like next. And that'll be on the replay, not on the live stream. So yeah, thanks for joining me. I had lots of fun. I hope you did too. I will see you next week. I'm not quite sure what we're doing yet, but I will see you next week. Same time, Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern for a live stream. Hope you join me then.